remember the bare light bulb trembling above me, humming like an insect in the committee room deep inside the university. The glass of water trembled in my hands. All around me, clusters of faces, bearded, pinched, impassive. The head of the Kunst und Technik Committee, a lady with sharp lips named Professor Becker, spun my portfolio around on the desk and tapped it dispassionately with her nail. "Franziska," she said, "we see this sort of thing from time to time. Novelty. Surely, but confused." I forced a smile, lips stretching so tight they might split. My slides, digital printouts, and USB all splayed on the table, loaded with months of work. Data pictures, scrolling weather patterns in vibrant ink, strings of daily Berlin movement rendered as sleek, twisting sculptures. Shapes rising out of code, symphonies of numbers spun into living form. "I know it isn't traditional," I said. My voice scraped in my throat. "But this is how I see the city, how I see us." She cut me off with the precision of a guillotine. "You want to make art from spreadsheets, is this correct?" Laughter flickered around the room, polite and edged. "My work interprets data emotionally," I tried again. "It gives form to—" A man to her right, Dr. Vogel, waved his hand almost in apology. "It lacks connection, I'm afraid. Numbers are not stories." My hands curled under the table. I saw only flashes. Streetlights plunging through rain, the dark shape of my mother's face at the kitchen table, murmuring disbelievingly as she scrolled through the photos on my phone the week before. Becker laced her fingers, her rings scraped against each other. "We wish you well, but perhaps—" I took my bag and walked out into the drizzling morning, hating myself for daring to hope they'd understand. Word gets around. In a family like mine, faster than water finds the lowest crack. My mother waited at our Kreuzberg flat, wearing her disappointed but concerned expression. She had coffee ready, a thing she did when expecting bad news. I dropped my jacket and the world was reduced to ticking radiators and the clinking of her spoon. "They didn't like the work," I said. She sighed. The sound filled the room, swelling around the edges. "I don't blame them, Schatzi. Maybe physics, something practical?" My brother, Henrik, home from engineering school, appeared at the kitchen doorway with a smirk hiding in his beard. "Turn data into art?" he said, slouching in fake sympathy. "What? Do you want to display bus schedules? Coloring books for computers?" Hot blood surged in my chest. I stared out the window, rain streaming down like Morse code. It meant something. To me, it did. He laughed, a single uncomplicated sound. "That and €1 will get you a Brötchen at the corner." My mother said gently, "Your father tried, you know. When he was your age, his sculpture made sense." "Maybe." I scraped my chair back. "I'm not him." The sting of disappointment stuck to me like a wet shirt. Later, lying in my tiny room, Spotify in my ears, I watched the ceiling flicker with passing tram's light and clenched my teeth. I told myself I'd show them, but underneath the anger and shame, I was hollow. My dreams weren't just bruised, they were caving in fast. A year passed in slow, humiliating slices. I took a part-time job in a bakery, stacking bread and giving fixed grins. I made art at night, data sculptures roughed out on my old Dell. I stole time using free university Wi-Fi, posting work to obscure online communities. Swapping code and criticism with insomniac programmers in Minsk and Mumbai. My old friends talked of launches, promotions, green-up plans. I was the punchline, the cousin with the computer art thing, last pick to babysit at family dinners. But the numbers, the maps, the swirling traffic flows pulsed in me. Sometimes I'd ride the U-Bahn with a notebook, diagramming passenger movement, watching life knot and unknot at every stop. I kept adding, building, refining. My only allies were the night and my machine. Rejection wore at me, but rage kept me working. Every mocking comment drove me to finish another piece, another simulation, population growth in neon, shifting city light patterns. The heartbeat of Berlin lay bare by sensors and algorithms. Most nights, I wanted to quit. Some nights, I almost did. A message changed everything. Someone in London, a digital curator named Ash, had seen an animation I posted to a hackathon page, a time-lapse of Berlin air pollution, morphing into a tangled blue sculpture with each breath of the city. He asked to call. I nearly deleted the request, heart pounding, but forced myself to answer. Ash spoke quickly, brightly. We're doing a group show, new eyes, data as medium. We want your Berlin breath piece, expenses paid, you'll install it yourself. My voice clawed its way up. I'm in Berlin. I can. I'll come. A week later, I was on a cheap bus east, knees pressed to my chin, carrying a single suitcase and a USB drive. London was tall, damp, expensive. I crashed on Ash's sofa. I spent days wiring screens, testing code, triple-checking every connection. The night of the opening, people huddled against the November rain. Gallery lights shimmered on glass sculptures shaped from code. I stood alone beside my piece. 30 hours of animation, looping Berlin's pollution as a breathing, glowing body. The curator handed me wine. Quietly at first, people gathered. They stayed. They asked questions. Someone called my work alive. A man in a thick scarf simply whispered, "My city never looked this true." I stood under the gallery lights and for the first time felt taller than the rain outside. Money didn't arrive all at once, but email addresses did. Collaborations, commissions, invitations to strange bare-walled places across Europe. Museums began to call it data art. Governments wanted to buy civic emotion rendered in code. Newspapers wrote pieces, the artist drawing out the city's invisible heart. Each time I returned to Berlin, my mother eyed my travel-worn jacket suspiciously. Henrik still joked. I told no one how sometimes standing at tech meetups, imposter syndrome still roared in my head, how I felt 15, ignored and foolish. But I kept moving. Each new project a rebuke to the old committee, each small paycheck more concrete than the last. Over the years, my radius expanded. Paris, Milan, Seoul. Installations became walls, then rooms, then buildings draped in real-time pulsing visuals. One night at a rooftop party in Madrid, a journalist asked, "How does Berlin feel tonight?" And I found myself grinning, the city's shape rising in my memory, restless, stubborning, bright, still full of ghosts. The call I'd wanted most came after nearly 8 years. Berlin's Urban Museum, the old fortress on Museum Island, a major exhibition, invisible cities mapping the modern metropolis. They wanted me, my work, my vision, my unique perspective on data and emotion. I stared at the email in disbelief, caught between outrage and wild satisfaction. Back at the university, a decade before, those same words, unique perspective, had meant exile. Now they were summons. I called my mother that night. She was older, voice warm but wary. I heard her washing dishes, water gurgling against porcelain. "I got the museum show," I said, too fast. "Urban Museum, solo installation." There was a silence. Then a careful, "That's wonderful, Francisca. Is it the kind of thing people will come to see?" I laughed, eyes burning. "I promise. You'll see." I flew to Berlin that March and walked the crooked streets, the city colder than I remembered. I rented a studio in Friedrichshain, near grungy bars and bakery smells mingling with the sharp scent of winter. Mornings, I rode out early with a laptop, old notes, new sensors. Berlin heaved below me, loud, unrepentant. Exactly my kind of city. For 6 months, I built. I coded in a fever, mapping